Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today's episode, you're joining me on the floor of the garage at the moment. Basically, I've got the vast majority of the components for the charge cooling system, so I just want to do a bit of a talk through with some of my ideas and thinking behind where I've gone with some of them, because they're a bit out there and not what you'd usually expect, and certainly where you usually expect to find the certain components. And start coming up with a bit of an idea of where some things are going to go, where things are going to be mounted, and I've got to do a bit of measuring up for coolant tank and stuff, so I'm going to try and get all that done today, and just even in my own head just get a bit of a better plan of where things are going and how it's all going to work. And there's quite a lot of wiring involved, just because of arguably I'm overcomplicating the system, but I want to keep a close eye on a lot of things like temperatures, so that's the reason why I've gone down this route. So I have on the floor here, so we've got charge cooler. It's from a VW 1.4 TSI, same as the supercharger. It's normally just in the inlet manifold, as I've said before. So decided to use that. It's a nice compact unit. It's got a proper mounting flange, nice in and out pipes there, as you can see, so really easy to plumb in. All I've got to do is make a inlet plenum that is gonna fit that nicely, and hopefully that should work. Regardless of this, that unit there, I've thought to myself several times, would actually make a very good heater matrix. It's very thick, it should dissipate a lot of heat, and very cheap as well. I picked an inlet manifold up with that in it for, I think it was about 25 quid delivered, so they're dirt cheap for what they are, which is really good. So in this bag, just got a load of various connectors. So we've got two 90s that go from 20mm down to 16mm. The inlet and outlet on the charge cooler is 16mm, but the inlet and outlet on the pump is 20mm. So I decided that's the easiest way of stepping that down. In the coolant rad, the charge cooler rad, I've got some unions that go to 16mm, so the vast majority of the pipe work will be in 16mm. It will be just short little tails that come out of the pump that go from 20 down to 16. It doesn't need to be 20mm for the system. 16 is plenty big enough. I've got the 16mm pipe as well, so it's all very, very cheap and easy to get hold of. I've also got, so I'm pretty sure I've said this before, so this pump here is again from VWs and Audis. It's actually Audi badged, so this is what I'm going to be using. I've got hold of the proper OE plugs for it, brand new, so I can actually terminate the wire properly, which is always a bonus. It just makes it look that much neater. They're water sealed plugs and everything, so should withstand rain and everything like that quite a bit better than just normal terminals, so that's good. Also dirt cheap. I think they're about £3.50 delivered for two of them, so you can't complain with that at all. The next thing is the radiator itself. So I've gone for a PC cooling radiator. It's 240mm by 120mm. It's dual pass, so down there and up there, rather than just going straight across, or a lot of them go in one end and come out the other. Dual pass, so it should be fairly efficient. It's a very well made one. It's not particularly expensive, not one of the cheap alley ones from eBay. This is a proper copper cored one, with brass header tanks, so should be fairly durable, which is a big thing. One of the easy ways you can tell the quality of a any kind of radiator or cooler, anything like that. So if you take a close look at the fins, and the fins themselves have got swagings on them, so they're not just straight flat fins. They are actually profiled fins as well, which is just another sign that it's that slightly higher quality than the cheap crap you get from eBay. And to say, one of the big things is it's not an alley one, so I'm not worried about weight on this. I just want high efficiency, and copper radiators definitely outwin size for size an alley one. So to meet that kind of cooling efficiency, I'd have to have a bigger alley one. Obviously space is very limited, so the smaller the better. Attached to that radiator, I have two 120mm Cooler Master fans. These are certainly, these particular ones are definitely overkill. Not from a cooling point of view, more from these are, I decided, the inner child within me decided to go for RGB fans, or actually addressable RGB fans. They weren't, I think they maybe were £1 more than non-RGB ones. And one of the things I enjoyed last year, and I'm going to try and incorporate some of it this year in this stage of the refresh, as we'll call it, was the Ipswich and Suffolk Mini Owners Club did Barn Bash weekend, which was really good fun. And as part of that, there was a glow show, so they, we had to decorate the cars all in LEDs and stuff like that. I came joint first in that. It was really good fun, such a laugh, and I figured for the extra £2 I'd go for the RGB fans, and if I decided not to use them, then I just don't wire the RGB side in, so I've not lost anything. And they're proper Cooler Master fans, so they're very good quality, and yeah, so hopefully they should provide ample cooling for it. And finally, the last thing of the stuff I've received so far is this fan controller. So it's an Alsai A100L, and R is for red because you can get these in blue. It's a Chinese thing, as everything is nowadays. But having had a look online and stuff, they got fairly, for this kind of price range, they're fairly good reviews. People say they're fairly good. They're very capable. They're not suited for this application, not designed for this. They are designed for computers, designed to keep CPUs cool in computers. But one of the big draws for this, this was probably about £10 more than the really, really cheap budget ones on eBay. And the reason why I decided to pay that little bit extra for this is it's got automatic functions on it, so you can set it to automatically control things, and it's got 6 fan outputs and 6 temperature probes, which is the big thing. Most of the other ones all run off a single temperature probe that can control one fan, and then the other fans are manual, so you just set the RPM on the other fans. This is a fully automatic 6-channel fan controller, which again is overkill, definitely overkill. I'm not going to be controlling 6 fans, but what it does allow me to do is essentially have a digital LCD display with 6 temperatures on it, various different settings. So what my plan at the moment is, this may change, so I'm going to run I'm going to call it number 1 fan, is going to be the top fan on the radiator, and that will have a temperature probe right next to it. Then number 2 will be the second fan on the radiator, and then the rest of the other outputs probably won't be used, but I will use the temperature probes. I need to play around and check the thermistors and see what type they are, whether I can hardwire in some other thermistors like water temperature sender and oil temp sender and stuff like that. Basically, I can use the other 4 temperature inputs to display things like my water temperature, my charge temperature is the big one. That's going to be one of the things that controls a lot of it, and oil temperature as well, because I want to keep a really close eye on oil temperature. I'm not putting an oil cooler on this at the moment. There's no need to put an oil cooler on this. From the testing that I've done at work, the big problem that a lot of people do is they just straight away slap an oil cooler on it. Don't consider at all what temperature the oil might be to begin with. They just slap an oil cooler on it. Ultimately, an oil cooler is to get around a problem. You put an oil cooler on because your oil is getting too hot. It's not a case of because you're getting more power out of the engine you want colder oil. That's not the case at all. To get more power out of an engine you want hot oil, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to overheat that oil. So different oils have different maximum working temperatures and stuff. There's, I won't go into all of that, but if you've got an engine that typically is running 70 degrees oil temperature versus an identical engine that you then get the oil temperature up to 90 degrees, you can get significant power gains with that. That is, cooling your oil too much, which a lot of people do, because they have no consideration for what the temperature of the oil is. So actually, most of these cars, certainly road ones, will probably run at about sort of 70-80 degrees oil temperature. Suddenly you stick an oil cooler on that and you're cooling that oil down to sort of 40-50 degrees, which everyone thinks is really, really good, but actually all that's doing, that's giving your oil pump a really hard time all the time, and you're sapping power. You're losing power by adding your oil cooler. So I won't be fitting an oil cooler to this unless after some testing I find my oil is getting too hot. In which case I will, and it will be a justified reason for fitting that. I've done testing and tried it, and I need the oil cooler. But certainly at the moment I have no reason to believe that I'm going to be overheating this oil at all. So until I have a problem, that won't be a solution. So that's one of the things I want to keep a very close eye on temperatures of everything. I want to run charge temperature sensor as well. Originally I was going to run one to a gauge on the dashboard, and water I will definitely still be running to a gauge on the dashboard, but just because I want that as a permanent separate one, because that is ultimately the one that really matters. If that starts to creep up, then we've got issues. And oil temp is obviously another one I want to keep an eye on, just to let me know, but I don't need to keep a constant eye on that. I can flick in and out of that, which is where this screen comes really in handy, because most of the time I'm going to be monitoring the charge cooler temperatures to see what they're doing, see if it's working efficiently. Certainly to begin with, there's a huge amount of unknown here. I might be going way overkill with this, or the whole lot might be nowhere near as efficient as I want it to be, in which case I then have to start looking at other options. But it's the main thing is, the biggest thing with all of this is just keeping an eye on things and measuring stuff. So being able to measure the temperatures and everything is going to be really key to the longevity of this system. I already know from experience, without charge cooler, those intake temperatures most of the time are going to be over 100 degrees. You know, you've got a big heat pump there essentially. So that's going to be, you know, you're going to see excessive temperatures, and they superchargers do weird things. Certainly on suck through systems, they do weird things because you don't have a blow off valve or anything. A lot of time, like with turbos and stuff, when you're on idle and stuff like that, your charge temps are quite low because there's no gas going in as such. Your throttle's basically closed. Whereas with the charger, certainly on a suck through system like this, because it's your carburettor that's controlling your idle, there is always an amount of air going through, and that air is always being compressed. So there is always air in the charge system. There will be, for the most part on idle, there will be a vacuum of sorts. But at idle, those charge temperatures go through the roof because there's not the airflow through the charger to keep it cool. So one of the big things, well, certainly on a suck-through system, is you end up running them quite a bit richer than you would normally just an NA one, because you use that fuel to try and keep the charge temperature and the supercharger itself as cool as you possibly can. So you really notice when you come off idle and you start to get that airflow through the charger, through the inlet manifold and stuff like that, you really notice that the charge temps will start to drop fairly quickly, and they will drop to a point. The supercharger itself is going to be sat at sort of 60-70 degrees when it's all up to operational temperature. That's just how they are. You know, they are, let's say, heat pumps. So the air going through will always be heated up, even if it wasn't compressed. And so it's that stale air on idle that can really creep up temps, and that's that's one of the things you've got to watch out for. People are always cautious of obviously full boost and full power things, which is obviously very dangerous, very high into the realms of getting debt and knock and stuff like that. But you can easily cook an engine on idle if your temps are too high, and as well, I've got to keep an eye on that, because if I've got 100-degree air going through my charge cooler at idle, that charge cooler, the air is going through it slower, so more of that heat is going to be going into the charge cooler, which will be good because it means it gets it out of the charge going into the engine. So hopefully keep that cool. But I also don't want to overheat this charge cooling system, because I'm not running a pressurized system. There should be no need to run a pressurized system. I shouldn't be seeing water temps near 100 degrees, because if I'm running 100 degrees intake temperature, which hopefully I'm going to be running a bit less, and I've got 100 degrees coolant going around, then I'm just taking too much out. I can't get rid of it. So then that's when the system needs to be up-spec'd, whether it be better pump, better radiator, better charge cooler in the actual manifold. These are all things that we've got to test. I mean, I'm hopeful, because a lot of people that run the VMAX charge coolers and stuff, one of the things I watched it years and years ago, I rewatched it recently because it's more relevant now, is Mighty Car Mods, their Moogs Mini that he's got, his JDM Mini, before they did a Honda swap on it, they supercharged that with the VMAX kit, and that's got the charge cooler built into the manifold, albeit it's not really a charge cooler, it's just a cooling water jacket around the inlet manifold, and they run that with a single 80mm fan rad, so less than half the size of this rad, and they basically run it with no coolant capacity as such, so no coolant tank. They have a little tiny fill reservoir, but it's a couple of 100 mil, it's not big at all. whereas I'm hoping to try and get some benefit out of running a either 1.5 or 2.5 litre coolant reservoir to allow everything to be a bit more stable. The more coolant capacity you've got, it works the same with engines. The more coolant capacity you've got, the more stable it will be, the easier it is to get the heat out. So hopefully with running, it's going to be a bit tricky to locate that and mount it properly and everything, but I think it's worth doing, because if I can get the extra capacity, then I think it's going to really pay off, and hopefully make that a little bit more than what a lot of them seem to, which is I could just bolt the kit on, and I know from Tom's recent dyno graphs and stuff, it will probably do about 70 horsepower and about 90 foot-pounds of torque, which is great, but to me that's just a bit boring. Right, that's been done, that's just a bolt and kit. As I said at the beginning, I was hoping to make this whole kit myself, but due to just time constraints and having family, and I've got millions of other projects to be getting on with, I just haven't got the time to be doing all that. And I'm a machinist at work and stuff. I could get him to make the pulley and stuff like that, but by the time I factor in the cost, and then it's a couple of months having that made and everything, it's just not feasible at the moment for me to do it myself. Having said that, I am modifying a lot of the kit, so there's that element which is what's keeping me interested, and this is going to be a one-off system, which is quite interesting. And so Tom, who I'm buying the kit from, this is the first kit in the UK of his, and this is also the first right-hand drive car. So he's happened to make a couple of modifications to the kit anyway, to allow for the master cylinders to be on obviously the right-hand side rather than the left. So that side of it's all going to be interesting anyway. But yeah, adding the charge cooler I think is something that that's, and the control system behind that, trying to get that to work as I want. This fan controller, that might not work. It might not have the capability to do what I want to do. So in which case, I've got other options. I've looked into the Arduino route, and basically programming my own fan controller. That way, I can control other things, and I can have the actual charge temp itself control some of it, and the rad temperature control other bits, and there's far more possibilities. This is arguably the simplest route, the easiest and quickest route doing this. So if this works, that's absolutely fantastic. If it doesn't work, then none of it's particularly expensive. So I replace bits as they don't quite fit purpose as such. Once it's all done, hopefully I'll have a bit of an idea, so other people can do it. So other people can buy Tom's kit or the Podifold kit or whatever, and fit a charge cooler system to it, or whatever they want to do. But at least if I've got an idea of everything that has worked and hasn't worked on mine, I can then relay that back to you guys, and hopefully help some people out, and get to the end goal a bit quicker, really. But I really enjoy all the testing and all the it'd be nice to log it all, have a proper ECU and do data logging, and that is long term. That is the goal. The crank pulley I've got is going to have a 36-1 trigger wheel, just because while I'm there I might as well have it. So eventually I will put this on a proper ECU, mappable ECU, something like a Mega Square. It would be very customizable. So I've got lots of outputs, so I can then basically replace the fan controller with the ECU that can then control all the fans and all the pump and everything like that. So that's hopefully going to be the long-term plan, but you know, we do it in stages. It's already cost me enough to get to this stage, so I want to with all my projects I like to try and, you know, do a bit, get some use out of it, feel as though I've got my money's worth out of that use and those modifications or whatever it is I've done, those repairs, whatever, and then I feel justified to, you know, spend a bit more money on it, and okay, we can move it to the next stage. I don't necessarily want to just go straight into the final goal of having, you know, I might as well, if I'm going to go to that point, I might as well just put a modern fuel injected engine in it and just call it done. But that's not interesting, you know. I like the trial and error and the, you know, designing stuff and making stuff work and doing things that other people haven't necessarily done before, which is you know, is what a lot of this is. And so far I'm definitely enjoying it. I might have a different opinion when I've got a hole in the piston or something along them lines, but we'll take it as it comes. If that happens, then got a spare one there. So, you know, nothing's permanent. It's all a learning curve. That's the main thing. It's it's all really interesting so far, and I can't wait to get out in it and try it. But at the same time, I don't want to rush it. I want to do it properly. And to that effect, as I said before, I'm going the 1275 head, so big valves, you know, big ports and everything, just to try and get that little bit more air in and out of the engine as I can. And unfortunately, the valves from that head, one of them was badly bent, but they were all bent a couple of thou. I ground the valves, the seats on the valves. Most of them came in okay, but one of them just was too far gone. So I managed to pick up another set of second-hand 1275 valves and springs, but they look in almost new condition. So I've got to wait and see what they're like when they turn up as to how much work is needed. Hopefully they'll be the right size, and they will just fit in with a lap. I've got to lap the seats anyway, so I might as well do that, and then I can make some more decisions on other bits needed for the engine and the head, and to get the head mounted. So we're very beginning of February now. I spoke to Tom, hoping the charger kit's going to be ready for dispatch end of next week, but I think probably more likely it's going to be the week after, and then I'm assuming it's going to be a week or maybe even 2 weeks to get over here, by the time it's got through customs and all that rubbish. So I'm hoping end of February I should have a supercharger, and you know, hopefully then I can start getting on with things. But what that does give me is a couple of weeks to get the head finished, and so I've got to grottle the chambers and everything, enlarge them, just a little bit of porting on it, get the head finished, get it mounted, you know, that can all go back on, and just try and get most of the stuff back together, so when the charger comes, one of the first things I'm going to do is just fit the kit as it comes, make sure there's no clearance issues, make sure the belt alignment's correct and everything like that, and then from there I can start modifying it and seeing where I need to make changes, and you know, just go from there really. So I want to try and have the engine in a state where, you know, if I slapped a carb on it I could run it, so that it hopefully then makes it, when the charger comes, is a lot more further ahead. So I've got some of the packaging things of trying to figure out where to mount this rad. As I said before, I don't really want it anywhere here, because although yes, there's a really nice amount of space here, there's also lots of stones and stuff coming up here, as you can tell by how dirty all the wheel arch is. The obvious place is going to be here, but again it's very tight. I mean, this runs really close to the front end, so you know, it's very tight in there. I could slope it here. As I said before, I'm not necessarily interested in direct airflow through it. That's why I've got the fans, and I want to be able to control the temperature well with the fans. So if it's a bit higher, sort of up here, maybe that might work better. But what I've got to remember as well is there's going to be hot air. This is going to be hot and blowing hot air, and what I don't want to do is blow hot air straight onto my carb here. So again, I've got to think of where things are going to go. I've got a really nice bit of space down here, where it could go, and this will be behind, it's lower than the grill stops here, so this is down low where the number plate and everything is, but it also makes it very vulnerable, so I've got to consider that as well. And also, if I do ever need to fit an oil cooler, that is where it will go. So I've got to try and think of these things as best I can now, where there's nothing on the engine, and like the coolant tank. So that's one of the things I'm going to do in a minute, is just measure up and see what size coolant tank I think I could fit in. Ultimately, I want as big as I can get. The standard sizes for the off the shelf ones are 1.2 litres or 2.5 litres. I think probably looking at it, unfortunately the 2.5 litre one is going to be too big, so it's going to be 1.2 litres, which is fine, and with the lines and everything there'll probably be maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 litres of coolant in there, but it'd just be nice to have closer to 5 litres in there. I think it would just make it more efficient. So I need to work out what's going to go there. Again, the tanks, whatever tank I do decide when it comes, is going to need modifying. They normally only have one inlet at the bottom and sometimes one midway, and they're generally run pressurised. They're a pressurised cap. As I said before, I don't want to run pressurised, so the only thing I can do there is modify the cap so it's not pressurised and have it. Obviously still needs to vent air. It can't be a completely closed system. It needs to vent air to be able to account for the expansion of the coolant, because it's still going to be 50-60 degrees coolant in it, I would imagine, so it still needs to account for all that. So maybe mount that here. I'm not really decided yet. I may mount it over the other side and mount the washer bottle here. I did find in my array of parts from various other cars, I think it's actually from a MGF, sorry, a slimline washer bottle with pump and everything, fits on exactly the same mount as all MG Rover stuff does. So that might be an option for, I still can't mount it in the engine bay. It can't be here still, because that's where the carb's going to go. But it might be nicer to have a slimline bottle here or whatever. I just need to see. I just need to start mocking things up and seeing what space I've got, and what space, more importantly, I haven't got, is going to be the big deciding factor for a lot of this, I think. So yeah, I have got one option. I have got for the charge cooler radiator is, sort of here. It's, at the moment, that's obviously suspended mid-air, but there are ways that you can mount it sort of somewhere here, because again I don't need the airflow over it, but by the same means I don't want to be taking heat out of the intake and charge to then blow it straight back on the charger. So I've got to be fairly sensible with what I do, and it may be a case of I make some ducts for it so it's actually in a duct, and if I can do that, there is a chance I could run it in the car. I could put it under the dash, and run it like that. That then solves several problems in the fact that the fans aren't waterproof, so it means that they're out of all the elements. The radiator is obviously very delicate, as they always are, so it means I'm not risking stone damage and things like that. But what it does complicate is then air in and out. Obviously you need a lot of fresh air going through it when the fans require it, so it would be a case of ducting it in a way that that means that, you know, I'm not drawing in hot air from the heater in the car, and, you know, it becomes incredibly inefficient then. But at the same time, a lot of my fresh air vents into the car are now blanked off. So, and I wouldn't be able to reinstate them with putting the tanks under the inner arches. So there's just lots to figure out, and as I say, I'm not going to figure it all out until, you know, I've got to do it in stages. I've got to just try and fit bits as and when I can. Luckily, a lot of it, you know, with the charge coil system, arguably the further away bits are, the more capacity there is in the system, because there's more lines, more water lines and stuff. So there's no real downside to that. It's just trying to put it in a sensible place, really. So yeah, it's a bit of a long episode of me just waffling on about rubbish. But hopefully there's been some semi-informative bits in there that help anyone else that's, you know, looking to go down this route, or in a couple of years' time, when, you know, or 6 months' time or whatever, when this is finished and I start going to shows and stuff and people start seeing it, then, you know, if someone asks me, how did you do it, what were your thought processes behind it and stuff like that, then, you know, hopefully some of these videos and that will help people, and, you know, will help people make their own decisions. They might think that I'm doing something wrong, and that's fine. You know, by no means do I claim to know everything about these. This is all a trial and error thing, and we'll find out in due course. So yeah, and definitely hear mice. Anyway, I'm going to end the episode here. So thank you very much for watching, and if you've lasted this long, thank you very much. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Apparently the liking part of it is very important. It shows other people that, you know, are interested in this sort of stuff, that this is a video that they might like. And obviously any comments of anything you've heard me talk about, or if anyone's got any other ideas of things I could do, I could try, you know, I'm always open to suggestions. If anyone thinks anything's a particularly bad idea, you know, I'm not saying I'm going to necessarily follow everyone's advice. I want to learn myself, sort of thing. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you very much for tuning in.